Hello, corporate badasses. Welcome to another Summer of Magic interview. I am so excited to bring Shari on today's conversation. But before we started, we were talking about the Olympics and Simone Biles as a masterclass in women's leadership. And so I kind of just wanted to jump right in that because it was just so fun. So Shari said, let's just talk behind the scenes. So we've both been watching gymnastics, right? And what were some of the observations that you made?
Yes, Stacy, a couple things. I mean, one, Simone really shouldn't be here. You know, women peak in their 20s, early teens in gymnastics, and she's 27. You know, two, I was up late last night watching the recording of Rebecca Andrade from Brazil beating out Simone and Jordan. And right before the award ceremony, they did like a curtsy to just honor her. And there's just so many things about, you know, first of all, just women supporting women. You know, here, your biggest competitor, you're hugging when they did a great performance and letting everybody know there's room at the top. But two, you know, all of the women on the women's team, the U.S. team, have had adversity in their lives. And they've taken a step back and mentally prepared, physically prepared. So I just think there's so many things that you see out there that we as women leaders can emulate and know, you know, this is why we need a seat at the table.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And thank you for jumping right in. I always do this thing, which is throw people off guard by just improvising. So I appreciate you starting off this conversation because what has been happening for me is this overwhelming desire to do more, to raise my hand, to have another interview, to showcase, to share what the work that we're doing inside the Leadership Table Mastermind. Because when we see people like Kamala Harris running for president, and when we see a Simone Biles bowing to her, or at least honoring her, the winner of the gold medal, in that this is just what women do. I think you said that, Shari, and it's so inspiring, but it reminds us that our path towards executive leadership, not only does it look different, like just because we are different, what we're creating and what we really want to see happen at the leadership table is new, right? We're paving a new path. And so when we can use that support around us and that inspiration to say, you know what, why not me? Raise our hand. It's like the timing is perfect. 2024 is a whirlwind of this right now.
Exactly. And even watch before all of them go up, you see them giving themselves like affirmations and stuff. And I bet 30 years ago, there was no such thing as a gymnast. It was kind of like beat it out of them.
Yeah, totally.
The country. And they still have that fierce competitiveness, but at the same time, they're kind to themselves and each other, and they're supporting. So it's been everything I've learned over the last, 15 years in leadership you're seeing on the world stage. And it's been really cool. And it's caused me to keep thinking about how do I do things different.
Exactly. And really embracing that, because I think we take for granted a lot of the magic that we as women do bring. So speaking of magic, let's backtrack a little bit and talk about what we're here to talk about today. So I've been doing a weekly interview series celebrating the Summer of Magic. The Summer of Magic is my commitment to celebrating over 432 promotions on LinkedIn, celebrating women who are getting promoted into higher levels of leadership throughout the summer of 2024. And Shari's promotion, so to speak, in this summer was being one of the award recipients for the Silicon Valley 2024 Women of Influence Award. And I had the pleasure of going to that ceremony and celebrating and honoring her as well as part of the summer. And so I really wanted to have her on here. Shari, why don't you introduce yourself first, and then we'll continue with the conversation.
Yeah. Hi, Shari Begun. I'm Vice President of Sales at Renaissance Electronics, and I'm a transparent, results-oriented leader who empowers their team.
Yes, you do. This, because she could have just been quoting somebody else. I'm so, we have numerous stories of ways that Shari has done this. So actually, let's kick it off with this Women of Influence Award. I felt like the ceremony itself was very impactful. And what was that experience like for you winning that award?
Yeah, so Stacy, I'll back up a little bit and kind of where maybe some magic came in. Earlier this year, I was nominated by somebody at my company for Leader of the Year for Electronics Weekly, which is a big publication in the semiconductor industry. And anytime you get nominated for awards, you have to submit all this paperwork and write up something about yourself. And I started doing that, and I knew what I wanted on paper, but I just couldn't seem to get it. And I actually reached out to you and I said, do you think maybe Marie, who works for you or Marie could help me with this because I'm having a hard time articulating this on paper? And you said, absolutely. And then we started talking about it. And I said, I really want to put some time in this because there's some other different awards that I would like to be nominated for, submitted. And you go, well, what, out of curiosity, well, what is that? And I said, well, there's one that I've seen for years, and it's the Silicon Valley Business Journal, Women of Influence, and I want that. And you're like, well, I'll nominate you for that. And I'm like, really? So anyways, it caused me to go. I submitted myself for the award for the other one. I didn't get it, but went through the process with you, and you nominated me for that. And Stacy, it was just, it was an amazing experience. It was 100 women from all different industries. I've actually made connections with 2 of them since then. And I think you said it that night, so many women's leadership things are about us improving, about us, taking risks or doing different things, and all these things we have to work on. Well, that night, it was simply about just like saying, great job, and you belong. And you just saw the whole night. I mean, that energy in that room.
Yeah.
And even through some of this stuff I've posted on LinkedIn, I had a lady from 2023 who couldn't be there that night reach out to me, and I'm doing a virtual coffee with her in a couple weeks. So just the fact that it's opened the doors of meeting other influential women, which has been very important to me about belonging and everything. So anyways, it was just an amazing night. And it was really amazing to have you sitting next to me because you've been on this journey with me for almost 3 years now. So it was just really cool to have that and people that I work with. And it was just a great night.
Yeah, so good. Marie, who is here with us, she said hello. If you're listening, definitely say hi, and feel free to ask questions or make comments throughout this conversation. It helps more people find us on LinkedIn and also helps spread the good word about women empowering in leadership. And so maybe perhaps Marie could also share the 2 podcast episodes that I did recently, one interviewing Shari, and then the one she was just referring to where I talked about the power of this Women of Influence, the actual event itself. And it reminds me, going back to the beginning of this conversation, about talking about how women just kind of naturally support other women. We tend to lift other people up. And it's kind of the world that's around us. And this is the world that we want to create more of. And I think it definitely stems from this sense of belonging. And I have a magical formula that I will kind of break down into 3 pieces as to what it will take for you, listener, to magically be promoted as part of the Summer of Magic. And it's basically short story, intention, belonging, and curiosity. So I think for our purposes, let's focus on belonging a little bit. And one of the big observations about this award ceremony was that they weren't trying to fix these women. We were just saying, good job. And we were just celebrating. We weren't saying, hey, let's have a couple of speakers to tell you how you can have more executive presence. They were saying, you have it, girl. You have the executive presence. You're a winner, right? Your voice matters. All of those things are happening for you. And these were women at all different levels in leadership. There were presidents of universities all the way down to individual contributors, all leaders in their own way. And it just, that celebration of women was this idea of belonging. We all belonged there. We all mattered. The men in the room belonged there. They mattered. And you could see it. They were proud of how they've supported women in leadership too. I mean, it was just so powerful.
I agree.
So let's talk a little bit more about this process of belonging. I think belonging is actually a verb, meaning that you can do it. You can choose to belong in a room. And when you don't maybe by default feel like you belong, maybe because you look, think, act differently than the rest of the room. And being a woman in engineering, I know for a fact that you were often one of the only women in the room. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you a story about actually where I felt like I belonged and where I thrived and maybe some magic happened. My very first management job, I took at a company, and the person who ran sales was a female, which this was 20 years ago. There were no female VPs of sales in the semiconductor industry. And as a result of that, her team was very diverse, and there was a lot of women on that team and men, but women in kind of middle management position. And a lot of those women who were my peers were 5, 10 years older than me. And of those, there's about 5 of them, 3 of them took me under their wing and kind of just reached out, to me, as well as made themselves available every single time I needed help on something or just wanted to bounce an idea. And what it allowed me to do at that company, I worked there 7 years. I hit my first big goal in my career was I wanted the number one customer, wanted to lead a team, and I wanted to travel the world. And I did it there. And I don't think that was coincidence, Stacy. I think it was because I felt like I had support. And it allowed me to just really, really, really thrive on that. Now, as I've gotten higher up in my career, there's less women at the top. And I've done stuff like join your leadership table. I'm a member of Chief. So I have that same support network. It maybe it's not at the office, but they're women who are in similar or different industries, but a lot of the same issues that come up. So I've had that's helped me thrive on it. And I'll give you one more example. A lady I met through Chief, she had called me. She's in the job search. And she started telling me what she was looking for. And I'm like, wait a second. I knew somebody who was just looking for something similar. It was Christy, who just landed her SVP role. And I sent a quick note to Christy. I said, I have somebody who I think you two would have some stuff in common. She's on the job search. And I introduced her. So just that community of, people from all different parts, we're connecting each other, we're helping each other out. Christy just landed her big gig. So hopefully now as recruiters reach out to her, she might pass them on to my friends. So just that whole thing of having this belonging, this group, and we can all lift each other up.
Yeah, it's, and you might know a woman in leadership, but for some reason, it feels like it needs to be said, who doesn't emulate all of these qualities. And there was a time in women's leadership philosophy where we used to kind of, and I say we because I was a part of this journey as well. And I would hear it a lot where it would say, we need to lift other women up. We need to lift other women up. Remember, lift other women up. And I can't help but think, because I've never preached that at all, because the women that I'm around were just doing that. And I felt like there is a disconnect because when in the old way, and I want to remind everybody about this magic and how it's this ability to embrace our magic and our ability to really own that we can be empowered to lift other women up is new, like as in the last 10, 20 years, right? So the women who came before us, a lot of them were forced into isolation. Like if you want to have that seat at the table, you are going to be the only, you're going to continue to be the only. And it's important that you then embrace a masculine society of, as you continue growing. And this is the message. If you want that, these are the sacrifices that have to be made, whether it's conscious or subconscious, right? And so now I think as women, we're claiming our voice at the table through the process of others, right? Through the process of magic, through the process of feminine qualities, while still owning what I would call my authentic power, right? So we're incredibly powerful. We're lifting everyone up. Everybody wins. Our organization wins as a result. The men on our leadership team win as a result. We are all winning, right? And this is a different game. And it's part of the process of how we get there, as well as once we get there, we also have this ability to then continue to pass it on. So I wanted to kind of point out that philosophy. You were nodding your head a couple of times.
Yeah, no, and I think, we're seeing that back to the gymnastics. Look at the U.S. men's team. I think they are absolutely emulating what the women's team is doing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Camaraderie.
So true, actually.
And who's getting the attention? It's the women's team, of being the leaders. And I think it's amazing. And I think everybody's comfortable with it.
Yes. Oh, it's so good. So speaking of magic now, I'm curious from you, do you believe in magic? I think we're already there, and the answer would be yes. But any other magical experiences, stories that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned a couple of them, but I would also say just doing this today. You had asked me to do LinkedIn Live back in December of 2022. And back to that authenticity, I was always fine on a small scale, but once something's out on the internet, it's pretty intimidating, but I did it. I had so much fun doing it. I had some people before that ask me to do podcasts and I was too afraid to. I did those, got some different good feedback as a result of it. And I had made a goal in 2024 that I was going to do 5 speaking engagements. And this is where the magic comes in. I was doing some, looking at my calendar, doing some admin stuff, and I have a document that I keep of my speaking engagements. And literally the day you invited me to do this, I had literally an hour before opened up that document and went, wow, I just booked my 4th speaking engagement and I was interviewed for ebook. So technically that's 5 on it. Then you guys invited me to do this. So I'm like, okay, now I have a 6. Well, today is my 5th speaking engagement of the year.
Wow.
So magically, I'm going to now put a thing out there that I want to do 10, this year since August. But absolutely, how coincidental or magical is that, this is my 5th one. And it's kind of where I started, right? On December 2022.
Yeah. And you know what I love about your story, and you have a counter story about a person who was on a board and just kind of said, I'm on multiple boards, right? And just owned that, right? And so the way you were sharing the story, it's like, I created that, right? I created all of these speaking gigs. I set the intention. I passed my goal in just 6 months, right? And let's see what else is possible for us. I think that's so important to just say, hey, you know what? I'm a speaker now. There's actually no turning back. You are a speaker. You're a woman of influence. You are now.
And, and one of the things I'm going to do is, there's a lot of different, conferences and stuff that you apply to be a speaker. So that's kind of that next part of that journey that I want to do. And that all ties into my 3X vision and where I want my career and my life to go. So all these little things I'm doing, there's part of a bigger, for myself.
Yeah. Thank you, Shari, for sharing that. And Marie has posted all kinds of interviews that I've done with you over the years. And I'm so grateful that you said yes back in 2022. And then also this ability to say yes to your own leadership and to feel into your own confidence and to go for more. I really appreciate that. If you want to connect with Shari, I encourage you to connect with her here on LinkedIn. And, also tell us hi. Make sure if anything resonated in today's conversation, you share that as well. Anything that you'd like to say as we head out today?
Yeah, I just, I'll take it back to where we started this conversation. As a leader, watch the women's gymnastics. You can be a fierce competitor. You can dominate your career. You can take time for yourself. You can help others, and you can kind of make the world a better place. So, I would just say that's what we do here as women, and that's what I want to do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.